Hello, my name is Kass Sells. I'm Global Chief Operating Officer and President of International at We Communications. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm honored to be here with you at SPECTRA. Even if it's virtual, I'm excited to be here and very happy to be invited to talk with you today about something that's very near and dear to all of us at We, and something that's been part of our company for a very long time. It's really at the heart of everything that we do. Purpose. We fold purpose into all of our communications and all of our efforts with all of our clients in our client council and everything that we're focusing on. And I'm here to share with you that I think you should be doing the same. Today is a moment to really focus on purpose. And with everything going on in the world right now, today, as the world is in such crisis with so many communications opportunities, we're seeing more leaders asking, does purpose still matter in the world today? Well, it's worked for other brands, and it's worked for those classic brands like Patagonia and Unilever, and we can all talk about those, and we've talked about those a lot. But today we're going to talk about, is it a priority for my business and your business? And I want to use this time to talk about and answer that question. And as we go along, give you some examples of work for real brands, and particularly brands here in India, in which purpose is working hard for them. And we can place it in the context of, will it work for you and how you conduct your business every day? Now, you have to know I'm not the biggest fan of hyperbole or exaggeration, but it's fair to say nearly all of us recognize the current pandemic is world-changing. The coronavirus outbreak and its effects have had a significant impact on all of us and people's health, mental health, physical health, and well-being, and on the success and indeed the very survival of brands, businesses, and economies. The pandemic truly is a tragedy on a grand scale. But that said, it's also a chance for all of us as leaders to reflect on the way things were, maybe pre-COVID, and assess what's to come next. A moment to identify, what do we want to keep? What do we want to change? What are we going to discard? What are we going to start learning? And how are we going to apply that learning in ways that will reshape the way we live, the way we communicate, and the way that we move forward into our next normal? Communications has forever been a catalyst for change. In a time when most fundamental aspects of our lives are being reinvented, pivoted, and changed, certainly how we work, how we create connections, how we express our ideas, I think it's an opportunity. The opportunity for brand communicators, for all of us here today, is to really harness the power of communications to fuel progress, to fuel our next normal, to bring hope, to create opportunity, to change the way brands communicate and the way consumers and customers understand our brands. We can foster compassion. We can show people a new way forward. We can tell new stories. Communications can illuminate our shared humanity. Indeed, it's that humanity, I think, that is the red thread across so many examples of powerful storytelling, of influence, and communications all around us. And it is the foundation, literally the rock foundation, on which purpose is built. So let's get in and dig in a little deeper into purpose and purpose communications. We've all experienced this pandemic in our own ways, but our shared experience likely comes from the point that at some point in time, we've all wanted things to be more clear. We've wanted clear advice, a clear strategy, answers to our questions. And the places that we normally turn to in times of crisis for those answers, traditional news outlets, our political leaders, haven't always been there for us, and they haven't come through. But the one group that is responding and is responding effectively, who's stepping into the void to fill that vacuum? Brands. Brands are setting the positive example moving forward. Let's talk about how. A huge part of the effectiveness of a brand's response comes down to their communications. And in times of crisis, what do we want? We all want reliable information we can trust, and we want it delivered with compassion to create some sense of stability and clarity in a world where there's not enough of it right now. And that's where we as communications professionals and as leaders can play a hugely important role, directing brands and indeed our businesses in how they communicate and how we behave in response to this challenge. At We Communications, we believe there are several guiding principles of purpose and purpose action, which can help lead our brands through a crisis. Let's take a look at these 5 principles that we use and that some brands have used to tackle this challenge. So to successfully navigate the crisis, there are a number of considerations which should impact all parts of your business strategy and your communications plans. First, stay true to your purpose. Authenticity is key, and ensuring that you continue to act with your purpose is important. Why does your organization exist? Why does your organization do what it does? How can your organization conduct a successful business while making that positive impact in society? Secondly, be prepared to act. Educate and assist your employees and your clients and your customers to ensure that all your right health measures are in place. You have a business continuity plan in place, and you're acting on that plan. You own the implementation of it. Third, speak the truth and be clear about it. The world, all of us have seen a lot of misinformation. Let's not add to it. Instead, let's be clear, truthful, consistent, and compassionate. Let your voice, the brand's voice, guide your actions with all of your audiences. Fourth, be human to the core. Treat your customers, your consumers, and your employees with empathy, with a deeper connection. Show up, be active in your local community, try new tactics, new approaches, new insights, and always keep moving forward. And fifth, really clear, concise communication starts at home, starts with your leadership team and with your employees. Connect with them regularly, know their priorities, know their concerns, and talk to them. Hey, a well-executed Teams call or a Zoom meeting or an iPhone video beats overproduced and late communications every time. Let's take a closer look at our first principle, staying true to your purpose. Intel has been clear about the steps it's taking to help fight the pandemic and to communicate the impact of its products' unique value proposition. They've been very clear about their purpose in the world and how they're staying true to that even in the current environment. Intel has a multi-pronged response to COVID-19, including a commitment of over $60 million to accelerate access to technology for patient care, speed scientific research, and to enable online learning for students. Its Scale to Serve program helps hospitals install a platform that enables ICU groups to collaborate and enable clinicians to adjust ventilator settings outside the ICU to help healthcare workers reduce their exposure to COVID-19. 2, be prepared to act. Right here in India, 750 million people live without access to basic sanitation, and over 120,000 children under the age of 5 are dying from diarrhea and respiratory infections annually. Enabling people to lead a healthier life for more than 200 years, global health and hygiene company Reckitt Benckiser knew they could create a positive impact on this widespread problem, particularly urgent given the pandemic. They're doing more than just talking about the problem though, they're acting, and they've used their resources and their infrastructure to extraordinary effect. Using their expertise, RB set out to instigate a behavioral change that would ultimately build a healthier and happier community. RB sought to provide knowledge and access to hygiene and sanitation at the biggest congregation of people in the world, the Hindu festival, Kumbh Mela. Following a survey of 25 cities, they hosted workshops and discussions with government bodies, NGOs, the media to discuss ways of promoting community hygiene improvements. And from that, a report was then disseminated to the public. 3, speak the truth and be clear. Committed to help end violence against women and girls globally, this was a critical moment for Avon in India to introduce its promise through action. It's not a pleasant subject to discuss, and the temptation might be to look away, but Avon has leaned into its purpose and given a voice to the voiceless, talking about a subject which some might consider unspeakable. Avon and the Avon Foundation for Women and their communications agency partners, AV and We here in India, launched Isolated Not Alone, a campaign. They worked with NGOs fighting against gender-based domestic violence. They rallied support from influencers, and they hosted live sessions on Instagram to address questions around legal aid and mental health. Overall, over 15,000 clients received health services, including screenings and counseling. $122,000 was raised in grants for frontline services to support women and children in need, and more than 2.9 million users were reached. So what is the grand unifier between these 3 brands, which have tackled the outbreak more successfully than others? Purpose. Purpose has to be so much more than a CSR program, more than ticking the box exercise or a bolt-on without any true alignment to your business. That's not purpose. It needs to align to your brand's values. Purpose is a higher goal. One must go beyond a short-term self-interest, and it really needs to provide the why your organization exists, why you do what you do, why you conduct business in the first place, and how you are making a positive impact in society. Purpose should affect every aspect of your business, impacting your communication strategy, how you conduct your core business, how you engage your employees, retain employees and customers, and how you work. Because purpose provides direction, it informs strategy. It's rooted in the truth and authenticity of the way you work and who you are. If it doesn't consistently align with your purpose, if your work doesn't align, you're doing something wrong, because purpose is your North Star. And while purpose is the big thing, we should acknowledge that it doesn't have to come from one big change. Purpose can be built over time, brick by brick, as part of a long-term sustainable change for the better in your company. In our We Communications Leading with Purpose report, we found that 64% of consumers believe that brands, instead of governments, are primarily responsible for social change. Making good products are the table stakes, but it's no longer enough. We must embody an authentic purpose. In such uncertain times, this is even more true than ever. It may be tempting for brands to retreat from their purpose and shift to short-term financial worries and the balance between purpose and profits, but that's a zero-sum game. Right now, it's important to remember that clients and consumers look to brands during this crisis. And if the brands are to withdraw from purpose during tough times, where does that leave them? It leaves them with eroding trust that they've been building over time. So our research shows that purpose leadership is as important as financial performance to consumers. Leaders are worried about a recession, agree it'll be critical for organizations to double down on purpose, whether through the peaks and through the valleys of uncertainty, with 80% fearing that financial woes will threaten their purpose leadership. But with almost 3/4 of the people saying that they won't stay with a brand that doesn't share their values, purpose really isn't something that brands can afford to deprioritize, particularly when clients and customers might be reevaluating their own expenses. COVID-19 remains top of mind for everyone and still dominates social and traditional media conversations. But now is not the time for hard selling, big promotional activities, and messaging that doesn't deliver impact. That's all pre-COVID era stuff. Buyer sentiment is full of rapidly changing expectations on brands. And our research shows that people want brands to provide stability in a time of crisis and uncertainty. And leaning into your purpose can help you reinforce that relationship between you and your customers while delivering that stability that consumers are craving today. Kantar recently reported that brands who are able to deliver on purpose in an ethical way show their brand value grow twice as much as average brands. A further report by Accenture showed that growth for profit alone will fade away as people demand products and services that are personally meaningful and socially and environmentally beneficial. So purpose is no longer just the industry buzzword. It's foundational and the expectation of client consumers everywhere. So how do you make sure you're meeting your consumers' expectations through the right means, particularly in this time of crisis? Principle number 4, and my favorite, be human to the core. This is a prime opportunity for brands to express their humanity, their support for communities through this challenging period, and to be a source of escapism and joy. Brands that experiment, use technologies in new ways to connect with their markets in meaningful ways and authentic ways will be remembered and be top of mind in this new normal. Our We Brands in Motion global study showed that in times of crisis, businesses have a responsibility to set up and support their communities they operate in and act as a stabilizing force in uncertain times. Brands must act true to their purpose, remembering those who support them are their community, not just consumers. They must prioritize people over promotional value. And in such a rapidly changing world where our personal, social, and work lives are all connected through technology, consumers are craving something much deeper. They not only have high expectations for brands and for tech functionality, they have higher expectations for how that technology will enable them to lead a richer life. The challenge now is to go beyond the customer journey and the user experience and dig deeper. Dig deeper into your customers, your users. It's not about speeds and feeds, it's about people. So on to our 5th and final guiding principle. Good communication starts at home. If you're not engaging with your teams and your colleagues and the people you work with on a daily basis in regular, purposeful, meaningful ways, start now. Please start now. Start yesterday. Indeed, in these uncertain times, employee engagement is where we start and is more important than ever. In a recent survey with Quartz showed that 77% of respondents agree brands have a moral obligation to engage with social issues that impact their workforce, their people. The health and well-being of those who champion the brand must be prioritized. Simple as that. Especially as right now as the world continues to be in this flux. Anxieties can be soothed and clarity is provided when we pave the way for a relationship with our people. So for many of us, the world of work has undergone so much change, just a fundamental shift. Nothing is as it was. It's unusual. The environment can be almost unrecognizable, and the expectations and the regulations and the masks and the sanitation and the safety conditions and all of it is suddenly like causing huge behavioral change. And it's tough for all of us. If we're working from home, how much of our experience has changed dramatically. So we no longer see our colleagues at the office. We no longer see our clients in in-person meetings. The way we communicate is going through a massive shift in this digital world. It affects all of us, right? Our personal and social work lives are now unfolding on the webcam, just like we're doing right now. And the way that we engage with our employees has to recognize this shift. Let me share with you one last great example of employee engagement during the pandemic, and it's from HSBC's commercial banking arm. Last year, they established a program called Drumbeat, their employee engagement campaign, which provides all employees with regular newsletters and employee resources to get through the pandemic. But beyond an email, it included videos and podcasts and links to external content, Q&A sessions, and more. It includes engagement in all different forms from lots of different leaders across the business. making sure that employees are getting the information from the sources who matter most to them and who they trust. HSBC integrates the feedback from their employees, recognizing that people engage with different information in different ways, and then they cut through all the volumes of email that their employees receive, and they just go right directly to them. And they found that 90% of the employees surveyed found that drumbeat, they found it useful, they found the communications helpful, it helped them to survive COVID and go and get the resources that they need. Going out and getting the resources improved 100% through drumbeat. I've shared a lot with you here. So let's quickly recap how you can successfully use your purpose to navigate today's crisis. First, start by staying true to your purpose. Find it and stay with it. Second, be prepared to act. Your actions mean so much more than your words can ever mean. Third, speak the truth and be clear and direct about it. Fourth, my favorite, be human to the core. With your consumers, your humanity and your empathy make all the difference. And finally, clear communication starts at home. It starts with your employees. It's the best place to start. When I started today, I asked you to consider where you place your brand purpose in the order of priorities and how you conduct your business. And I hope that you share with me the conclusion that brands shouldn't cut purpose. No, they should lead with it. The world and our industry have changed immeasurably, hugely in 2020, and we can't expect a return to a communications environment that existed before the current pandemic. With all these challenges and all these changes, we do have the opportunity to use today to be better. And chief among those opportunities to be better is for a brand to lead with their purpose and drive that influential change across the world. And that means change at an individual level, at a local level, at a country level, and at a global level. Together, we can do that.
Thank you, Kass, for that insightful keynote. I look forward to hearing more from you on the relevance of purpose during the course of our conversation. The Indian corporate landscape is dominated by promoter-driven firms where the cause adopted by the family becomes the purpose of the firm. What would be your advice in these situations?
Great question. I think founders are really well placed to establish the brand's purpose, why an organization exists and why it does what it does, and make sure that that purpose is baked into the strategy of the business. I work for a founder-led company, and our founder and CEO, Melissa Wagner-Zorkin, is the face of the brand. We often tell Melissa she's our largest and best brand asset. The most important thing we can do is to keep her voice and the voice of our brand authentic and make sure that our brand purpose and her personal purpose are always aligned. Making sure that purpose and the establishment of your brand is authentic is really essential, and brand purpose and purposeful leadership has to be at a brand's North Star.
Societal initiatives by corporates have seen severe cynicism, especially in the West. What are the principles that corporates should be mindful of to avoid being seen as a form of greenwashing?
That's a really good point, and I like that point a lot. I think we've seen examples of greenwashing. We also see that it's typically not very effective, right? It won't last, and people generally see right through it today. Genuine purpose is a higher goal, one that has to go beyond short-term self-interest and promotion. It has to provide the why. Why does an organization exist? Why does it do what it does? How can that organization conduct business while making that positive impact on society? Those are the questions that we have to answer. And because purpose impacts every aspect of a business, it has to be anchored in truth and authenticity. You can't just, like we say, you can't just talk the talk, you got to walk the walk, and purpose helps you do that.
How important is purpose for companies to engage with employees internally?
Yeah, we believe and we expect our employees to be the biggest and best advocates of a brand and its values. Employees are perceived as more trustworthy than almost any other messenger about your brand. And they should and will hold you accountable for the message that the brand delivers and its authenticity. If employees aren't passionate and engaged, how can you expect any of your other stakeholders to be? Think about it, as I mentioned in the presentation, you need to start at the start. Your engagement with your own people. That's where it starts. I think business leaders today are communicating clearly about purpose and creating a dialogue with employees as two of the top most important factors for success over the next year and through the next 3 years. So it becomes critically important to inspire and involve and engage your team to align around brand purpose. And if you're not already prioritizing employee engagement, you need to start today, like right now, because you're already playing catch up.
These are very unique times that we live in where commitment to purpose seems most appropriate. But how does one sustain commitment to purpose in normal post-pandemic times?
We don't see us collectively going back to a normal. We see there'll be a next normal and a next normal after that, and maybe a progression of next normals after that. So we're working with our clients to determine how we can create a better, brighter next normal with purpose at the heart of that. Purpose gives us that North Star to lean into throughout all of these normal times and very not normal times. It gives us a guiding principle which guides all of our decision making and all of our communications efforts. And as in terms of like sustainability, we know that brands that invest in times of economic downturn typically gain market share, and they don't give it back, they keep it. A strong purpose gives you that place to start. And we've seen that in action with brands like historically like Coca-Cola, Procter & Gamble, Unilever, and now we're seeing it with today's brands as well. And that's a global statement. And as we work with technology, health, and consumer brands, I can tell you that they have a clear commitment to communications that is unwavering. They recognize that there's an opportunity for success and market share when everybody else goes quiet.
How can luxury brands or brands that thrive on consumption demonstrate a strong commitment to purpose?
When it comes to consumerism, there's always room at the top. I think the top 1% of consumers have been less affected than the remaining 99% by the current pandemic. So luxury brands won't struggle as much as some others. They are leaning into that 1% and they're growing their brands and their market share. And I think one of the reasons that they're doing that is without that acute economic fear, they've chosen to lean into their higher level purpose, why they exist, and they've connected even more purposefully with their audiences. They're moving to direct sales, exceptional customer service, more premium products, additional services and extras, and more and more. They're investing in their brands and developing long-term relationships with their customers and really leaning into that organic growth from their customers. And today, in a world that's moving at an unprecedented sense of change and pace, communicators like in luxury brands are listening and understanding the needs of their customers, and they're leaning in to meet them where they are versus expecting them to come to them. They're going to them, meeting them where they are, and having success with them.
Thank you, Kass. Certainly a lot of food for thought. Purpose does give us a North Star to lean into in normal and not so normal times.
Thank you so much for having me today.